go live, and we are live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's hospitality highlights. Cara,
hello.
Thank you very
Good
much
morning.
for joining me again. The sunny morning in the UK here, which is good.
Yes. So, well, let's start by introducing our guests. I say this morning, the lovely Lisa Hobbs, CEO of Etymon Projects, based in Australia, which is a hospitality and services business. Clearly is not this morning for you, but good evening and thank you for joining us. And our second guest is Bianca Tavella. She's the founder and CEO of Fair Shot Cafe, which aims to transform the lives of young adults with learning disabilities, which we will definitely go into more. As today's topic is based around the PM's speech last week, which was about benefits becoming a lifestyle choice. So we wanted to explore that topic in terms of hospitality. And is there a focus on inclusivity in hospitality? Is there not? What more can be done? What is already being done? I know a lot of people from that speech were concerned that it promoted hostility around the disabled. So yeah, who would like to go first and get us started on the topic?
I think I can begin. I just want to quickly explain Fair Shot. So what we do is we get people 12 to 15 through our training program every single year, and then we actually work with mainly hospitality employers to job cover roles for our graduates to place them into sustainable jobs. And I think, Rishi Sunak's announcements definitely generated some hostility, and it's easy to understand why. I think the most important thing is that, things like this just don't make you feel understood. And I think only if you feel understood and supported would you then willing to kind of take the jump and go into hospitality jobs. And I think speaking with a lot of employers and hospitality employers at that, I think it's important to say that, these hospitality employers, they do actually want to become more inclusive. They do want to create a culture that fosters a sense of inclusion, but, they're unable to support them themselves. They don't really have the expertise to do so. And I think it's kind of just, I guess, analyzing that side of things, because there is a want there. It's just, how do we make sure that it's accessible to all and the people with a disability kind of feel that they would be supported to enter into this new world kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And look, in Australia, one of the best ways that I've found to get assistance with this inclusivity is to actually work with a company that actually specializes in this and can tailor programs and and provide bespoke support for individuals. We work with companies. That's certainly how we have managed to do it in our business, when we have about 200 employees. And I wouldn't say it's a large percentage of our employee base, but certainly we're open to it. And it is hard as an employer to have all the programs yourself. So you need help to do that. And I think quite successfully here, there are quite a few companies that provide that help.
For sure. I always say the employers kind of sometimes even kind of just reach out to us and say, I'd say 60% of our employment partners have reached out to us. And I think they're just scared. And I think the two biggest things holding employers back from being inclusive are thinking that they actually just don't have the right infrastructure to support, that their team isn't ready, and also just the I guess fears of additional costs and additional training and the time that takes. And I don't think people realize just how easy it actually is, and also understanding the benefits of neuro-inclusion at work. And I always just say, we don't even just expect you to be an expert in this. We're the expert in this. Let us hold your hand. And I think then partnership is essentially sets the foundation to then widen each other's scope for impact. And I don't think we can expect, they're already doing one job. I don't think we can expect them to do everything at the same time. And I think that's where partnership kind of incentivizes that. And I think, I do think that's the most important starting point as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think in order to be an employer that can embrace a company like yourself or any other company that can provide this support, you then need a leadership framework within your company that is open-minded and, dare I say, emotionally intelligent enough to be able to work within this as well. It's certainly something that I focus on, and I definitely focus our business on, because culture starts at the top, right? So you know, we make a habit of all of our leaders doing quite a bit of training. Starts with self-awareness, moves into emotional intelligence. You know, that emotional intelligence to understand that everyone is individual and needs to be treated individually, and then can work with these suppliers to actually, you know, have successful outcomes with employees that are perhaps, you know, struggling, you know, in any way, shape or form.
So from my perspective then, Bianca, I mean, hospitality businesses are notoriously fast-paced, and you know, ever since, well, even before COVID really, but certainly exacerbated since COVID, there is this supply and demand equilibrium, this resource shortage. We see it from an L&D perspective, whereby, you know, businesses want to do the right thing in terms of training, but they can't let people away from the front line in order to do that. So how has your organization structured itself and built itself to provide that additional support and that training, maybe that emotional support if needed, to the people who work within your business?
Well, I think on the one hand, it's, you know, I completely understand the L&D shortage, but at the end of the day, it's not even, the things that we suggest aren't even time consuming. I think we need to remember at the core, yes, hospitality is labor intensive and they're struggling financially and there's a lot of turnover rates, but on the other side, there's loads of practical skills, there's a huge variety, they're completely different from other industries, and they kind of they very much want kind of the creative people. So just to understand that it's the perfect kind of environment for someone who maybe thinks that they're a little bit different is kind of the first starting ground. And I guess the most important thing that we do to help companies, I guess, to become inclusive is, number one, we essentially act as a consultant. So we basically help them create the right suitable roles for candidates that are different, I guess, kind of like our graduates. So this is called job carving, and we support them throughout the whole process. And job carving is anything from pulling sometimes we ask them, like, send us every single job description you have within the company. We'll pull every single role and responsibility to create a new role for that individual can actually do, and also that benefits the employer. And also then that job carving kind of goes down into, you know, where actually is this job? Like, does this individual prefer as like a timetable, and every single 30 minutes they have a different task? Does every task need a booklet? And we kind of help with all the kind of helping on that side too. And then what we also do is we offer DEI workshops to the whole team. And yes, it would be great if the whole team kind of comes, but obviously with hospitality, it's not that easy. So sometimes we kind of just go in and we'll make sure to grab people at different times. And we'll both do the DEI workshops, which is just a general understanding. And then the thing that we think is the most successful is just our graduate profiles. So they're so personable. And I think what we're constantly trying to teach employers is that this is like, at the end of the day, this is about understanding people on a person by person basis. It's not just about generalizing with autistic people are like this, people with Down syndrome are like this. We want them to understand and really look into the individual and their unique strengths. So we'll do very, very, very in-depth kind of person training, where we might even talk about obviously understanding kind of their triggers and how to support them if they are having a meltdown, what makes them happy, how to speak to them. Is it open-ended questions? Is it closed-ended questions? Anything like that. But also we even just talk about like, what kind of humor do they like? Do they like sarcastic humor or do they not? And I think this is where, even if it's the CEO or the HR or the DEI people that kind of get in touch with us, I think when we ended up speaking with the whole team, and we'll vet the whole team before we even consider them as an employment partner, we'll say, you know, every single person in the team has a responsibility to make this individual feel supported and to also create and foster that sense of inclusion. And I think if you, at the end of the day, understand someone's strengths, how they work, how to support them best, and even just how to like work alongside each other in the most kind of efficient way possible, I think you're already doing your part. And that's kind of our part, to make them feel as confident as possible, because even the people that might not join the DEI workshops, that are just kind of in the profile session, at the end of the day, people are just scared. Like, they're just scared of just saying the wrong thing. And we just want to make things as approachable as possible, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So we're kind of trying to come at it from all different angles.
That's an interesting point that you make about people being scared. I think that there's a resistance or perhaps reticence for individuals to show curiosity because they're worried about being cancelled or worried about saying the wrong thing. And you know, we find it in mental health. Obviously, you find it within your work. So I guess, Lisa, from your point of view, how do you promote and how do you encourage genuine and curiosity within your organization to allow people to understand cultural differences, perhaps, you know, whether it's physical or mental disabilities as well?
So for us, it starts with our values and you know, really focusing on our behaviors and that they drive our values, that our behaviors and values align. And then we get the culture that we want. You know, we like our restaurants to be approachable for a start, but we also from an employment perspective want to be approachable as well and inclusive. I really think it's around education, and it's that constant learning and development piece as a leadership team, as I'm saying, to keep everybody's mind open. I mean, on the one hand, from hospitality's perspective, you'd think that we're actually probably better than we should be. Well, sorry, better than we are at this because we're a people business. You would think that people are at the forefront. Unfortunately, though, I think due to lack of education, just sort of looking at, I guess, comparable businesses here in Australia, I think lack of education means that these inherent biases or these blind biases come in, you know, that you know, somehow taking on someone that's not, you know, meeting certain standards might hurt productivity. It might be higher staff turnover. But if you're educated and you actually know the stats, that's absolutely wrong. So I really think it's about that education piece. And then for us, it's really around the culture. What culture do you want? A generosity of spirit, being humble, you know, being open to other people. I always like to say to my staff, we're all humans, we're perfectly imperfect, all of us, just in varying degrees.
Yeah,
it's just quite keep the messaging quite simple as well. Perfectly imperfect.
Sorry, go on, Bianca. You're gonna.
No. I just think it's interesting because just with all the meetings with employers that I do have, I guess by the time that they come to us, they're kind of, you can tell that there is an incentive and they want to kind of take it to the next level. So we obviously always ask them, like, what have you been doing and what have you done so far? And I think the first step that the companies are doing is they look internally and they do like DEI committees and neuro inclusion committees, and they start looking within of like, okay, who wants to join? Let's share personal stories so that everyone can kind of empathize, because at the end of the day, empathizing and understanding each other is kind of the beginning of that. But I think they always kind of forget that, like, the education part of it, which is what you said. So I think it is really important, and just understanding that until people understand it, and there's, you know, I was lucky enough to grow up with people with learning disabilities, and at the end of the day accept differences from a very, very young age. But, you know, I'm not judging people if they haven't had that. You know, we all have different experiences, and I think we can't expect everyone to have the exact same experience that leads us to the same spot. So it's amazing that, like, these committees are really starting, but I think adding the educational element to it, I think is crucial.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from our experience, we found that top-down strategies, whilst governed by ultimately an agenda or a goal at the end of a financial year, often doesn't tend to lead with those best results. And as you say, like, if you've got that committee, if you've got that peer support network, and it's been driven by passionate individuals who are relatable within your organizations, then actually it has a greater effect, because especially if you provide them with that psychological safety and that autonomy to be able to say, like, actually, this policy, this procedure is not working for us, and we would like to change it, and we need your support to do that. That feedback loop, that two-way communication is almost the epitome to success, right? Yeah,
and I think it's interesting because, you know, it's amazing with these committees. They say so many people come out and end up saying, actually, I do have ADHD and I didn't feel comfortable telling anyone. And I think that's amazing. And I think it's never really going to stop happening, because even within our company, you know, there's things that we start becoming aware of, and then someone does, you know, go to the doctor and then they end up getting diagnosed. So, like, it kind of never really stops. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's so many different sides of it, and I think you kind of just have to start somewhere. And I think also understanding it's great that people do feel safer to kind of come out, but then you also have to look internally of like what structure and what foundation do you need to set to make sure that everyone can participate into making everyone feel supported, instead of just isolating that individual being like, great, they've kind of come out and said this, but you know, what can we all do to do it? There's a lot of different steps and levels to it.
Yeah, and it's being aware, as Lisa says, about that unconscious bias as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And understanding that your view or perspective on things isn't necessarily the way that the world actually is, but we see things through a certain lens. So, Cara, sorry, I've sort of taken over. I'm curious. From
it's a very, very interesting topic. So
it is, and it's not discussed enough.
Sorry,
right?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on after you.
No, I did just want to, whilst we have Lisa, obviously the trigger of this this conversation was the speech that was made last week, and this kind of around this opinion that so many people are relying on benefits, this benefit culture in the UK. And obviously you've both touched on support and how important that is from the very top. And if that's not there, then, you know, you're going to struggle coming in from another angle. So Lisa, just what's the government's attitude in Australia to benefits? Is that something that you have? Do you consider it a benefit culture? How do they deal with that?
To be honest, in reading about what your Prime Minister said, it doesn't really resonate with what's going on in Australia. It's certainly not at the forefront of, policy that we're hearing at the moment. I guess, on one end, our unemployment is quite low. But on the other end, we have a really fantastic NDIS system that provides a lot of support to people that are struggling in varying forms, so mental, health issues right through to physical issues. And as a part of that, there's quite a good structure behind these companies, as I'm talking about, that actually can provide these bespoke services for employers. If I'm honest, as an employer, I don't think there's enough communication and enough but probably being said. It's really up to the individual groups. And I suspect it actually is mostly more the groups that are actually doing it, because we have more wherewithal. We do have people in culture. We can form committees, as Bianca's saying. We have the wherewithal to have more of a thought process around this. So I suspect here in Australia, it's way more of an individual approach to it. It's not really at a government level at this point.
Okay.
Is that different based on whereabouts you are in Australia? Because I followed the Victoria government quite closely, and some of the policies and the legal structures they've put in place to start to protect the health and well-being of employees seem to be quite advanced compared to other parts of not necessarily Australia, but certainly other parts of the world. Does it tend to vary where you are in Australia, or is it?
Look, no, I mean fair work in terms of how employees must be treated and so forth. That's national. I'm Sydney based, so there's some slight differences, but I guess from my perspective as an employer, it's 100% compliance across everything. So it's not like you're questioning which things to listen to and which not to, or you're needing the government to tell you what to do. Your moral compass is that actually inclusivity involves a range of activities and a broad lens in relation to your recruitment policy and who you're recruiting. I believe that it's really more down to the individual employer.
Bianca, you mentioned that 60% of your employment partners, they've reached out to you. Mm-hmm. What's stopping the others reaching out to you? What do you think their main kind of barriers are? Is it just an unawareness? They're too busy? What do you think that is?
I think it's a lot of different things. I think, maybe some of them could have started their committees, but they don't think it's the right time, and they need to get them to a certain level and understanding where they feel, getting to the point where you're comfortable bringing in not only a neurodiverse person or someone with a learning disability, but someone quite young. Because ours are 16 to 25, you have to kind of believe that you have that solid foundation. And then there's so many other things like the cost, the time, not thinking that your environment is suitable enough. I think we've had a lot of, we've reached out to different office companies and I don't think they necessarily would have thought that their environment would have been good for some of our graduates, but we've placed a lot in office management roles and even in sales and in co-working spaces and in a lot of different types of roles. So I think I would hope that, you know, people might as well kind of just reach out and ask, and then we can kind of help them, because most of the time, I'd say 90% of the employers that come in, they're asking the same questions, and it's, we don't know if we're the right place, we don't know if we can create the right role, we don't know if we can provide the support, and we essentially need your help. So I think it's just this, essentially summarizing it as like unawareness and basically just not really knowing how it really works, I would say.
Such a it's a challenging subject, right? Because there are, we're living in incredibly progressive times, and I say that in a positive way. We're looking at more awareness around a myriad of different topics. So I guess from an employer's point of view, and Lisa, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Like, which one do you tackle first? Do you tackle the increase in awareness around mental health issues? Do you tackle the neurodiversity elements? Do you tackle the physical disability? Do you tackle gender inequality? How do you manage all of these different growing concerns and growing requirements as a business owner?
Yeah, look, I think it's multifaceted, and you don't necessarily have control over which comes first. Certainly, as I'm saying, from my perspective, I ensure that my leaders are actually, well educated around leadership, and those things include emotional intelligence and being accepting of things that are different, and that we understand that the one size fits all does not work. So, we on the one hand, we can do that. On the other hand, in terms of people applying for roles for us, one of the ways that we actually do come into contact with companies that provide this support is actually just an employee applies for a role. They fit the skills and the experience that we're looking for. We go through an interview process, and then we find out that they're actually coming through this company, and that's when we start dealing with this company. So, we have not actually sought out anyone to help us. They've actually come to us. And I think that's a brilliant way in our industry to remove the barriers. Because if the candidate has already come to you and meets that skill and experience, a lot of that bias is gone. And then it's just a matter of, okay, so what additional things do we need to do for that employee? Can I say, as an employer, we have covered all the full gamut in relation to accessibility and making sure that we have a plan for everything? Absolutely not. I mean, we're still in startup phase. I should have mentioned that. We've been trading since 2021, so end of 2021. So it's not a long time really in the scheme of things, but I am hopeful that in the future, everything for us in this respect is broadened. That really is, for me, where it should be.
I think you can kind of all combine it under just psychological safety and just someone feeling comfortable and bringing it up. I think it's been really interesting for me as a new boss and CEO, and our team is now 16 staff members. And I think it's been interesting because at the beginning I kind of set off with wanting to manage the team in a certain way, which is just kind of the way that I think that I am in my personal life. But actually, we had set ways of dealing and training our graduates and our learners and our trainees. And actually what I'm understanding more and more is that it's exactly the same for your team as well, because your team is so different and they're all diverse in their own way as well. So I think the bottom line of it is see everyone individually, and you need to be the one to identify their strengths. And even we did a strengths workshop where you really need to, which is essentially what job carving is about. And you kind of just need to focus on everyone's strength and create the perfect role for them. So I think it's obviously great to speak about neurodiversity in one aspect, but at the end of the day, understanding how you can bring those learnings into every aspect of your company as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's that whole will versus skill thing at the moment as well, isn't there? Like if someone's got the aptitude and they're willing to learn and develop, and you feel that they would make a good team player, fit culturally within your organization, then the skills element, to a certain degree, you can teach, right? And irrespective of what type of individual you are or what stage of your life you are, there's always opportunities there. And it's just getting businesses to start to think about beyond, that's not the way that things have been done before. You know, we've worked to this rigid structure and we've had rigid roles, and all of a sudden as an industry we're going, oh, hold on a sec, we can be different, we can be dynamic, we can be all of the things that hospitality is for a front-facing role, but actually we can do it from an operational standard. So I guess, what does the future look like for you both? Like, where do you see this topic of conversation? Where do you see the industry in perhaps 10 years' time?
I definitely think there'll be more focus on it. And I think, certainly from my company's perspective, there will be more people in this category that require, more assistance. And that's a good thing. I definitely think we will move towards that.
Yeah, I think so as well. Just a general leveling of the playing field. I think just including the inclusive practices right from recruitment to onboarding to supporting them in their role, and just, I guess, just a deeper understanding of what even is ADHD, what even is autism, what even is it, and what is your role within it, and also just understanding the little things that you can do, from task sheets to instructor booklets to break times to allowing them to work with headphones to knowing how to ask questions to just anything like that. I think, I'm definitely positive about it. Is it going at the speed that we want to? Maybe not, but it's exciting to see the willingness, I think, of everyone.
What's the feedback that you get from the people that do your internships and your graduates, Bianca? Like, what are your key? I mean, there must be some really nice takeaways from that you can share with people.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 36 so far, and it's I could never say that any of them have started the program leaving the exact same way. Like, it's just from this to this, and I think the way to summarize it all is just confidence. I think they come from an environment, whether it is at college or with their families, or I guess just within themselves, where everything is no. Like, everything is like, no, you can't do this, no. And then they come in, and I think the thing that shocked me the most is that they're actually just really scared of making mistakes. And they think that as soon as they make a mistake, they think that we're gonna, I don't know, tell them off. And it's really nice to see them make a mistake for the first time and just like respond with a smile and laugh and make things a little bit more like fun and chill. So I think it's the safety aspect. And I think if someone feels safe, then the confidence that builds from that is incredible. We're now 9 months into our third cohort, and it's just amazing. Like, they're just completely different now to when they started. And now we're kind of starting the countdown of the end of the program. So we're all already starting to get emotional, but and also the development doesn't even stop when they finish the program, which is actually something that I thought about before. And then every time we have a mentorship program, so they come back into the cafe once a month, and we also have social activities every couple of months. They just keep just becoming more confident, more adult, more mature, more fulfilled, more everything. I think Fair Shot's kind of just the beginning, and then it's more of a personal journey, I think, for them.
That's incredible. I've just been thinking whilst you've been talking. Did you see that advert that they did for Down syndrome awareness? Right.
Yeah.
That was incredible. So Lisa, it was a video over here in the UK, and it was an actress she has Down syndrome, and she's talking about there's different scenes where her parents are like tucking her in bed at night, and she goes to a bar and orders a cocktail, and they give her a soft drink, and she's like, it's so incredible. It's just really it's that paradigm shift that I think we need more of, right? Like that
we need to normalize it.
So understanding everyone's responsibility in it, from like the bar person to the parents to like every single person has a role in that. It was amazing.
So remove the inherent bias. Remove what you thought you knew. Normalize it. This is a person with feelings, needs, wants, desires, just like anybody else.
They're a human being, right? It's a human being. It's a life, and that's what's important. I remember as a young man, my mum has always been she used to run pubs, but also used to work in care and youth clubs. But she used to run one called FAB, which is PHAB, which is physically handicapped and able-bodied. And I remember as a young must have been about 11 or 12, young lad going along to these clubs, being surrounded by people with a variety of different physical disabilities, from blindness to Down syndrome to the whole different things. I remember my first visit to that, and I was terrified. I was like, these people all look different. I don't know what to say to them. I don't, can I talk to them? And then actually spending week and week after these individuals, I realized that they, irrespective of my bias on them looking or acting differently in certain ways, actually they are just a person. And some of them had the most wicked sense of humor. Like, honestly, it was so incredible to spend that time. But I think back to how lucky I was to have that exposure at such an early age, to be able to understand that, whereas a lot of people may not necessarily get that till later. So it's great, the work that you're doing, Bianca. So thank you for that, and Lisa as well. Thank you for sharing your experiences as you say a startup. Or at what stage does the organization stop being a startup and start being a
grown up? Yeah, look, I think a couple of years into it, but certainly feels like a startup when you're growing at a rapid pace, as well as bedding in businesses that you have.
Yeah, good. Cara, any final sort of closing remarks for you? I'm going to stay on time today.
You are. It must be a first. No, it's just a really interesting discussion, and like you said, this is just the start. And I think in 10 years, it will just be in a completely different place. And I think what you're doing, and Bianca is amazing, and I think Lisa, obviously having that perspective and from the top and passing that down is, everyone can take something from that. So no, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great discussion. So next week we have Andy Tate from the Performance Learning Group and Marguerite Keogh, who's the head chef at Michelin Starred the 5 Fields, and we'll be talking about everything apprenticeships, including changes to the apprenticeship levy for funding for employers, our very own Burnt Chef Project apprenticeship, and the benefits for everyone. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up next week. So pop it in your diaries.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you for joining us this evening. Sorry, this morning, evening. If anyone wants to reach out, how's the best way to find you both, Lisa and Bianca?
LinkedIn's fine for me.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.